When I think about the rise of AI, I'm reminded by the rise of literacy.
Something is happening in technology.
Students are going to be using ChatGPT and other forms of AI to cheat, do their assignments. They're not going to learn, and it's going to completely undermine education as we know it.
We currently manage to keep under our control using pictures of traffic lights, but make no mistake, once the machines learn how to recognize them, we are all
strongest action that any government has taken on artificial intelligence.
Have you seen the AI beer commercial? It's about a year and a half old, and it's supposed to be like a Bud Light commercial, but when they're drinking it, their hands disappear, and like the beer turns into a car, and it's like really not great, and then like everything catches on fire, and it's like, this doesn't look great.
Did you see the thing about the Wizards of the Coast lost one of their biggest artists because some intern used an AI tool, and then the company doubled down and said, no, this is not AI art? Yeah. When, these generative AIs were really starting to take off, Wizards of the Coast made a very confident, no, we're never gonna do this. So they said they're not gonna do this, and then they did it, and they, actions have consequences. Their artists didn't like that, and they left.
Maybe it'll turn into Skynet.
AI learns through inputting keywords and inputting kind of like things that you're looking for. It references other artists' work that they've done in the past.
Try to create something using AI, using specific queries. This doesn't come from nowhere. There's always sources to these. They're always pulling from some sort of repository to get this information into the AI. There's never anything created from nothing.
So when you talk to an AI, like chatbot, like ChatGPT, all of your input is fed back into, and they hold on to that data forever. So you have to be careful what you give it. You can't just, I can't paste in an email chain and say go, you know what I mean?
What I use AI the most, especially in like Photoshop, it can be really nice instead of doing it all by hand with re-editing photos and moving stuff that you might not want in the image that you're creating. AI can select the person, like a headshot, it can select it, pull them out of the background, and then I don't have to do that by hand. Traditionally, as I was trained, I'd have to go in and cut someone out of the image for a headshot. Now I can just do it with a click of a button. So from a workflow perspective, in Photoshop, it's really beneficial because it cuts my production time like in half. Another thing I've found really helpful is ChatGPT, especially with like writing formal letters of proposal. It gives you a great foundation, and then to go and edit that down to what I really need it to be, but based off of just like a short sentence, it can create a whole brief or a whole proposal, an email that you're trying to write. I find it extremely helpful in that, since I'm a creative designer, not a copywriter. So that's another form of AI that I really appreciate.
One thing that I used it for that was really cool was my employer had a, we went offline due to like a threat that we were concerned about. And we emailed everyone like, hey, this is what's gonna happen. And then I was told to take this entire email and tweet it too. So I fed it into GPT to kind of, hey, I need 240 characters or less. I need the gist of this out. Also with this link in here, like the link was required to be there. So I've used it more as a tool than like a use.
It is still very new. Just like when the internet first came out, a lot of people don't know how AI works.
There's no artists in the making of these projects, and it's going to get in the way of having an artistic vision.
I think a really bad thing people do is like they feed it their entire resume, their entire LinkedIn or whatever, and now you just give OpenAI's database your entire, your address, where you live, your phone number, your email address, and that's probably not stored very securely. It's probably, like it can't be. It needs to be, it's data that needs to be accessed to train on. So you can't lock it down the way you should with sensitive data like that. Like there are federal regulations on how certain kinds of data should be handled. It's called personally identifiable information, PII. Personal health information is regulated by HIPAA. I was intimately familiar with that at my last job because a lot of what we did was dealing with sensitive information. That's a big part of a help desk's job, is you can get someone access to their account again. With that, you need pretty tight regulations on why someone or how someone can access that. So at that job, we needed to confirm their date of birth, their mailing address, and the last 4 digits of their social security number. And all 3 of those pieces of information were regulated differently. I had to understand how all of those regulations worked. There were very specific applications like, no, you cannot put any kind of this information in here. The interface that we actually reset passwords out of would log you out after 15 minutes. It was really annoying, but it needed to be secure. And you just don't get that when you're talking to a ChatGPT or you're generating a Dolly prompt. That data is not going to be secured like that because it just can't be.
There needs to be a boundary set of, in particular, image generation, how the copyright is owned, who owns, those rights. It references other artists' artwork to create imagery that you're looking for. And I think that can be really beneficial, but it's still a gray area, and I feel like a lot of companies are still trying to navigate those barriers that are currently in the landscape of AI.
People are stealing art and pushing it through these AI systems. This isn't new to AI, because before AI, we had a special ad. I don't know if you've seen it, because this was really old. Do you remember the ad, "You wouldn't steal a car"? That's almost what I would equate that to in my mind, is piracy, but new age piracy. I don't think it's correct to go around stealing people's art to create AI art. But if you are finding a way to pay to get this art, these samples that you're putting through these AI systems are yours or have been purchased legally, and you're getting out art that is similar to this art, I think that is using it for its intended purposes.
I have seen people use AI and say that it wasn't AI. I've seen other people whose art has been taken by AI, and I just feel like it's really discrediting the artist's ideas to put it into the algorithm and pass it off as their own. And I've even seen yesterday that there was some person, I really liked their art, it was really intricate, and I just kept scrolling through their posts and I saw the same level of quality, and I was like, I really like this. But then I looked at their bio and it said AI, and I just immediately blocked them, because I don't want that on my feed. It's a little, there's skill that can go into the intricate details, and if you just type in a prompt, I feel like you're just getting rid of all that process. It's kind of like the Wild West era of this stuff, where it's not really, it hasn't really been regulated or anything, but maybe once that's kind of under control. I mean, we've already kind of seen like some of the deep fake stuff, where like people will create, like fake images or fake videos that you can't really tell it apart from something real. Or well, maybe not yet, but it could get to that point. And that could be used to like implicate somebody in like a crime.
We're going to end up in a situation where in some sort of trials in courts and stuff for legal proceedings, people are going to do stuff like submit video evidence that was created by AI. And I'm not 100% sure if we will be able to discern that an AI video is different from a real video, which is why I think we should really proceed with caution. We should stop trusting pictures and videos at face value. We should, whenever we see something, we should think, is this something that is real or is this something that is not? And this has been done to some extent, again, with Photoshop, right? We've gone through this whole thing with Photoshop where if we see a picture, we'll have to look at it real close and we'll say, okay, this person, I know them, they don't have that much hair, they photoshopped some hair in, right? And now, Photoshop isn't as widely usable as AI is, but I think we will really need to understand AI's art and AI's videos will be almost indistinguishable from real stuff.
I think a very easy target, like I mentioned earlier, is tech support, which is bad. Like, my job is genuinely at risk, but also there are some benefits to having that. I've gone to Copilot specifically. There was one issue I was working on at work where there was something in the computer's registry that was disallowing us to run this application. And that was all we had. It's somewhere under the hood where, if you're not familiar with what the registry is, when you run an installer, you get that little pop-up. That is working with the registry's API to put keys into it. It's very dangerous. So I went to Copilot and I was like, this is the problem that I'm having, this is what's going on, this is where the culprit is. It's somewhere within the registry. I think this is where in the registry it is. And so it was really nice to give it specific, like, hey, this is what's going on. And it went out to Bing and it started searching and it started giving me results and it started citing those sources. None of it was good. It was all very surface level, but it had, like I said, it cited the pages that it pulled. I could click on those, I could pull them off, I could read more about it. That's very useful to me as a help desk employee, but that is also very useful to like a second tier technician or like a help desk manager that may not know that much about computers to say, well, I don't need someone that needs to know a lot about computers because the stuff I don't know, I can talk to Microsoft's AI about it and that'll be good. Beneficial to my job, also has my job in its sightlines at the exact same time.
I know there's like the whole art theft thing. People will like make an AI image to submit it to a contest. I don't think it's the end of the world, but I guess I kind of get why people feel uneasy about it. But for me personally, it's whatever. It's just I see it as just another tool.
I'm afraid that it might take some other people's jobs, but I'm not so scared of mine because you have to have a person behind the AI at least that has a vision. And if you don't have that artistic vision, then you're not going to get a really good result, and it's going to show.
I think in the future, if not related to image production, AI can definitely cut production time in half. I think as time goes on, there could be the potential for assistance that you could just tell Photoshop and you press a button and it does it all by itself without you even having to do it personally. However, I think it takes away from what being a designer really is all about, and that's using your creative, mindset, your skills, and knowing how to do that without a program doing it for you. I think is still beneficial, no matter how far AI takes.
Things will be sorted out in one way or another. I mean, that doesn't mean not to be concerned, of course, but I don't think it's going to be as bad as people are probably saying.
AI is a quick fix to a problem that has been trying to be solved for years, and it's just people trying to express themselves. And computers can't generate human feelings, so it's never going to turn out well in the end. And people just need to create of their own volition.
Again, I think it's just a tool, and if you can use it poorly or you can use it correctly. With animation, having to draw like so many like in between frames, and then maybe having a tool that can help out with that, and cut down the amount of time I have to work on it, and then maybe I can just go through and touch things up. Ideally, I'd hope it would just help make my life a little bit easier.
Basically any benefit an AI can have can be weaponized in that way, and it needs to be really scrutinized when it comes to like regulations, and that's really tough because you have to take something like the federal government or the state government and you have to say you are the highest authority on this thing you know nothing about, because like realistically the people in Silicon Valley barely know what they're doing. Like it's just the way these things are made, it is incomprehensible to any human. We don't know how any of these work. We know how they're made, and that's about it. So it's very dangerous, and that's a very tricky thing to do, to convince someone, or rather, it's a very tricky thing to do to tell the government, like, yeah, you need to be morally correct on this, and also regulate it fairly for everyone. Right, AI is bad, dude. She said, we don't use AI in this household. It's not true.